Bragi. We'll just wait for some people to turn up into the live stream, then we'll start the live stream. I'm drinking tea, I'm thirsty. So hello to anybody in the world. How are you today? Anybody there? I'm running slightly late today. I was trying to plan to start at 7:30 p.m. Greddy's meantime, but I needed to eat some food. I cooked 4 sausages and I had 4 cobs, kind of long ones with the sausages, and that delayed me a little bit. So, and Rickardson's here. I've got a coffee on the go. Would you like to join, Iwick? If you're not, are you at work? I think somehow you can invite people to join your live stream, but I need to. I'm not sure how we do that yet. So I've drank too much coffee so far, he says. Yes, well, you can get those days when you do drink a lot of coffee and then you won't sleep at night, but at least coffee keeps you going. And it's quite essential. Can you imagine, Vikings on coffee during the Dark Ages? That would be quite scary, I think the world would be a different place if Vikings had found coffee. I've got to put my mug down. I don't have a little table. I could do a little table here to put my cup of tea down on. Actually, I've got another cup of tea here as well. I've got 2 on the go, because some days you just need 2 cups of teas. So I'm not going to run out of a nice drink today. So if the live stream's coming through okay, leave me a number 1. Just leave a comment with the number 1, so I know that the live stream is good, as in sound and quality. So that's a 1 from Dangly Bowls. Thank you very much. It does help. And we'll just make sure I've got live chat on. And Dangly Bowl says, didn't they find a cocoa leaf and chew it to get messed up? Well, I've not heard about that. That's a new one on me. I mean, they certainly did travel, so perhaps they may have gone to the east or the Mediterranean. Where did cocoa leaves come from? I think they're more South American, aren't they? But it does make you think. But then again, there's various other substances you could take to give yourself energy. It does make you think, what will be the traditional British version of coffee? I know you can get dandelion roots and you can dry them and grind them up, and that tastes a bit like coffee, but does dandelion roots actually give you energy? But then again, there was much wiser than what we were when it came to plants, so no doubt they would have known what plants to take to give themselves energy. And perhaps partly this is where the myth of Vikings taking, or certain Vikings like the Berserkers taking magic mushrooms before a battle to hype themselves up came from. Whether that happened or not, I expect it probably did to a certain degree, but you can't really label every Berserker the same. And I do have a few things to talk about today, so when we get settled into the live stream, and I've asked where everybody is and where you all come from, and apologise for the lack of content last couple of days. We'll talk about Thor, being it's Thursday, I think it's Thursday, and we'll hail Thor and hail Thunar, because I think that's quite an important thing to do. Then I thought we could have some fun. We could ask Alexa some random Viking questions to see whether Alexa actually gets things right. Then, if we get a chance, we'll talk about drinking vessels of the period, although I just realised I don't have my massive big horn with me, so I may have to go and get that at some point and gather up some drinking vessels to talk about. But I think that'd be quite interesting, because, most of us these days will drink out of a pottery mug, have your tea, but of course, if you had pottery in those days, it meant you had a bit of coin, or you was a potter, basically. And I don't think the pottery would have been to the standard as today. Then I do have my mail down here and a gambeson, so I thought we could talk about mail versus a gambeson, which is better for battle. And then I was thinking about, well, perhaps we should talk about Anglo-Saxon and Viking education, because we live in a world where everybody gets educated. From a young age, you go to school, primary school, infant school, primary school, secondary school, university. So I thought that would be quite interesting to talk about. And then I also thought about, because I've been through the period in the last few months of finding work, how would Anglo-Saxons and how would the Vikings go about looking and finding work? Because let's face it, you got a small farmstead, or you got a bit of land and you got to pay for the upkeep. Because let's face it, throughout a period, everybody's got bills to pay. You're always somebody you owe money to. So how would they go about finding work? So those are some of the ideas I thought we could talk about today. And of course, I'll read your comments as always and answer any questions you've got to the best of my ability. And this is just me trying to mess with my phone to see the comments. So Ivik says, I'm back to work tomorrow after 12 days off. Well, you've had 12 days off, have you? Wow. That's quite a long period. And did you have fun in those 12 days, Ivik? What have you been up to? So I've been a bit busy to reply on your WhatsApp yesterday, as me and Ivik talk on WhatsApp. And I was thinking perhaps we could start a WhatsApp group. Would that be something you want me to do? I could do it either on my two phones. And then I'll have to think of a name for the WhatsApp group and then send people invite to find it. So that's another option. Yes, so how is everybody today? Have you had a good Thursday, a good day of Thor, the god of thunder and lightning and weather? Certainly in the UK we've got a storm coming over at the moment, so it's going straight over England and going up north to Scotland. So how is everybody doing? I hope you're staying dry and you've had a good day so far. Let me know in the comments. So, and then Dangly Ball says, Colombia, is that South America? Well, yes, it is. That's on the west side, west side of South America. My parents went to Colombia, but I've not been there myself. And we got a comment here from Pie War. Hey, what's up, everyone? Well, what is up, everyone? How are you all? Keep on battling is my motto in life, because tomorrow's another day. So, got a comment here. I'm getting to the stage where I need to get glasses, I think. When you're getting old, when you've got to get your eyes tested again. So, comment here from Snudjar. Have you ever looked into how Norse and Anglo-Saxons communicated during the whole Danelaw business? Stuff about like mutual intelligibility of the language and stuff. Yeah, some days I can't even read, let alone speak. But well, I think to a certain degree, a lot of the Anglo-Saxon and Viking words all come from Proto-Germanic, so there would have been a kind of a connection commonly through the languages. But then also you've always had, I think throughout history, you've had people that translate. So if you're a Viking king and you're going to have to go and talk to let's say the King Alfred, and you don't talk Anglo-Saxon, you're going to take somebody with you that does talk Anglo-Saxon. And don't forget, Anglo-Saxons travelled and some of them worked with the Vikings because they probably saw the opportunity of power and they saw the opportunity of making money. So things never really change. So I think there would have been some ability to have somebody with you that could translate the two languages. But also the languages have a common trait with them both being based in Proto-Germanic to a certain degree. So, it'll be like getting two people that speak English but slightly different English, and we better understand the basic words and elements. But it does make you think. Of course, we lost a lot about it throughout history because it wasn't written down, and of course the Christians burnt a lot of the manuscripts from the early days, and we've lost them. So you know, perhaps in time in the past that was written down how people communicated, and we just lost that knowledge. Yes, so where is everybody from? So we got Pie War says, I'm in Texas. It's always dry here. Oh yes, it's a very dry state is Texas. I'm very big. And you always got to pronounce Texas with a big T. Not, you know, it's not like Texas, it's Texas. You know, you got to really put some emphasis on the T of Texas, from my understanding. And when I did American Civil War reenacting, I used to hang about with the 4th Texas Regiment, and there was a bunch of crazy lads, and we always had fun with them. Oh yes. And we've got a comment here. So we've got a comment here from Erho. It's my birthday. Well, very happy birthday to Erho. Oh, I hope you're having a wonderful day. Are you doing anything special tonight? Are you going out for some nice food, or what did you get for your birthday? I mean, my birthday's coming up, and I think I'll be lucky to get one birthday card. You know, when you get older, you get less birthday cards. But yes, happy birthday. Do wish him a happy birthday in the comments, folks. At some point, I will be upgrading people to admins on the channel, so you too can get the blue spanner of destiny on the channel, or whatever you may want to call it. And Erho says, thank you, sir. To Pie War, he wished him a happy birthday, and Irish wished him happy birthday, so happy birthday, Erho. And Erho says, thank you kindly. Well, you know, kindness and being thankful is a wonderful thing. And I always tell people, you know, as well as on the live streams and the videos, as I've done in the past, but also in real life, you know, I was talking to a religious teacher today who ironically is not religious. So he teaches RE, and he was saying to me, you know, well, I'm not religious at all, but I teach RE, which is religious education. And I kind of said to him, you know, well, I'm a Norse pagan, and you know, it doesn't really matter who you worship or who you don't worship, as long as you practice goodness and kindness, because those two traits will get you a long way in life, whereas hatred and anger will just get you to a negative place in life. But let's face it, how many times have any of you guys been in a situation where you've been kind to somebody and they remembered you and they're being thankful for your kind words, because kindness does pay, and it's true. You know, and could you say, well, were the Anglo-Saxons and Vikings kind in the same sense? Well, some of them probably were. But of course, if you've got somebody who's not kind, you could describe him as a complete bastard, you could say. Pardon my French, anybody who's younger. Those people are always remembered for not being nice. And nobody likes people like that in life. So we'll carry on and read some more of your comments before we get into what we're going to talk about in a little bit. And we'll go for 2-3 hours in this live stream. I do have to be up early in the morning, but as long as I get 4 or 5 hours sleep, that's fine with me. Because I'm just got to that stage in my life where I'm used to just getting 4 or 5 hours sleep as I grab my cup of tea in my American Civil War mug of Joshua Lawrence Chamberlain running down the hill, charging with his officer's sword at the Confederates. Oh, I do like tea. I kind of prepared myself and made 2 cups of tea, and I've also got somewhere I got a bucket full of ice. I'm going to put some Coke and rum in a little bit, just to keep myself going. So yes. And Erho says, good question. And Aaron Kelly says, yes, that stinks. And Aaron Kelly says, I'm in America. And Snudjar, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, because that's one of the problems of Viking names, is that some days you're not quite sure how you got to pronounce them. But all we can do is have a go. He says, Northern Ireland here. Oh, the wonderful part of the world. And of course, we have another of our big fans for Northern Ireland, Martin from Belfast. So there's quite a few Viking groups in Northern Ireland, and one day we will go there and have a proper Northern Ireland breakfast. So Ivik says, Jarl of London here. Oh yes, you've been promoted. You now got land and property. And Dale Tollins says, happy birthday. And Herho says, cleaning my garage today. Good company on your stream. Well, thank you very much. and we'll try to do these every other night. I think that's something I could probably cope with. If I did them every night, I'm going to wear myself out and not careful. And of course, if I'm doing a live stream every night, I'm not sat in front of my computer and editing some more videos for you, which I need to do actually. So hopefully tomorrow night I'll and maybe in the daytime, if I don't sleep in the daytimes, I'm up early for my first job tomorrow. Then I've got a few hours to myself, and I've got my second job tomorrow, and then I got the evening to myself. But I'm back up early on both Saturday and Sunday. It's the things you have to do to get the pennies and pounds coming in, so you can afford to live in this difficult age we live in. So, Pyro, question: what were the main differences in Anglo-Saxon burials and Celtic burials? Well, I guess mostly in Anglo-Saxon burials there was more Christianised, apart from at the very early period when they were still pagan, whereas Celtics were generally buried in a more of a pagan sense because they weren't Christianised. And of course, depending on which age of the culture you're talking about, because the Celtic era is quite big. So, and you can imagine some of these big stone chambers where, you know, I think they would often cremate people. Some days they would also leave the bodies to rot and then cremate the remains. So it's not like today where you go and you die, you end up in a morgue, and then you end up in, you know, a funeral home. And when my dad passed away in July, I did go and see my dad's dead body. This is the first dead body technically I've ever seen in my life, and he did look at peace and had a big smile on his face, but it was awfully cold, and it was, you know, it was upsetting because you're going to see your own dad who's dead, but at the same time, in my mind, I'm thinking, well, that's just a vessel, your body, really, and your soul and your spirit has left that body because you died. So, but yeah, I mean, that would be an interesting subject for a video, would be comparing the different ways, you know, the ancients saw death and they treated ceremonial practices. And then we have Red Tail Productions. Why are you a Norse pagan over Anglo-Saxon pagan when you're an Englishman? It's a good point. I think partly because Norse paganism is bigger than Anglo-Saxon paganism, and partly because at an early age I read a lot more of the Norse myths, and that always stuck in my mind. And then I was going through that journey of leaving Christianity at, you know, in my teenage years, questioning the morals of Christianity and the ethics of Christianity. Because I used to go to church with the Scouts, used to have to go on a Sunday. It was mostly boring and being preached at. And so I kind of had a more of a connection with the Vikings. And of course, where I come from, Derby, is probably more well known for its Saxon history than it is for its Anglo-Saxon history, because when the Saxons were here in the 8th century, the place where I come from is called Derby. It wouldn't have been called Derby then, it would have been called Northworthy. And worthy is the Saxon word for a meeting place or a marketplace or a place where people gather. So, you know, it would have translated like North Marketplace or North Meeting Place. So that's where the word worthy comes from. It doesn't really mean, you know, people in today's terms we would use the word worthy as in something is worthy of, you know, it's worthy of buying this weapon, or it's worthy of adventure you're going on. So you see it as a good context. So back in, you know, the 9th century, you know, after the Vikings have invaded Lindisfarne in 793, and at some point the Vikings came to Derby, and they probably would have kicked out most of the Saxons and rebranded the place to Diarby. And Dio is basically is the word for deer in Viking, and RB is basically like a small town place or meeting place again, but in Viking tongue. So, you know, I think it's R is the enclosure, so it's a Derby deer enclosure or deer, you know, meeting place. You can get different translations for different things, but yes. So that also drew me in as well. And then throughout my late teens, I was reading a lot of the Norse myths. I mean, I've not really read them too recently, I must say. I mean, I concentrated more on telling folk tales than I have telling Viking stories, because I kind of left that to Egil and I kind of left that to Tyrkir because they know those stories very well. And they are quite daunting when you got to remember, you know, how to pronounce these long, complicated names. So what stories I did tell, I tended to choose the ones that I could get away with and not have to have a massive whiteboard full of names to remember. And so at the time I was reenacting. I think I started when I was 17. I joined the American Civil War Society. And then I think in 98 and 99 I was at a mixed period event where you had everything from the Bronze Age up to World War II. And I got talking to a bunch of the Vikings that were, you know, waiting for the battle when we was waiting for the later battle. And one of them came from Derby. His name was Gary. So at the same time, I was kind of transcending from Wicca, because I got into Wicca, as in witchcraft, first of all, in my path. And I got a little bit into Druidry, but none of them really felt like the path for me to go down. So, and in the back of the mind, I was always thinking, you know, I'm like a Norse pagan. I kind of felt the connection. And so I joined, when I heard that Gary was from a group called the Arleby Group. I did try to join about 3 or 4 years beforehand, and I think I phoned and left a message on Tyrkir's phone, but with Tyrkir being not so organised, you could say, I don't think he probably got my message and never got back to me. So the first time I did try to join the local Viking group, that no longer exists because of politics, basically. It killed it off. I kind of decided that you know, I was going to continue this route, go down the Norse pagan path, but at the same time I also was getting vastly into shamanism, or shamanism, depending on how you pronounce it. And so I also found the connection of shamanism through, you know, the Norse teachings, although a lot of the teachings of the shamanic way of the Norse has been lost and wouldn't have been practiced massively compared to a lot of cultures that do have a massive shamanic culture. I mean, all cultures across the world have that in common. They all come from a shamanic culture before they became later Christianized. And so, in my mind, it was I got into Viking reenacting and more of the faith and the myth of it, and where the Norse was to honour the gods, because I couldn't just talk the talk. I couldn't just say oh, I'm into Norse paganism without actually doing it physically and honouring the gods in that sense. And so that led me down this massive route I've been down and path where I got more and more into the Viking culture. But at the same time, I also do like the Anglo-Saxon pre-Christian culture as well. But a lot of that has been lost to time. There's certainly more knowledge when it comes to the Viking culture than there is to the Anglo-Saxon culture, but we are learning more things as the year goes by, and we're making more discoveries and archaeological sites, and more rune sticks are appearing and so forth, and who knows, there could be some more lost manuscripts out there somewhere. So that's fundamentally how I got into being a Norse pagan. And although I often describe myself as multi-religious, because I also accept and practice my Christian values, because when you think about the Ten Commandments, and you often think about, you know, some of the things that the Vikings did, like they don't like lying or oath breaking or cheating or stealing, they got a lot of things in common in that sense. And of course the Christians got their hell and the Vikings have got our hell. I think our hell in the Norse paganism sense of things is better than the Christian hell, because we've got more holes and more places to go to, which you don't want to go to, of course, because you want to go to Valhalla and have that glorious death on the battlefield and have an eternal life until Ragnarok comes about. So I hope that kind of explains a little bit of that, and we'll go back to your comments. So so we've got a comment here from Red Terror, says Iceland here. So always great to see our Icelandic brothers and sisters on the channel. Oh yes, it's a place I want to go one day. I'll take my girlfriend on holiday and we'll go do some filming and meet a lot of our fans over there. I'll save up first because I've heard it's very expensive. But yes, definitely a place I want to go in the world. And then Eirik Rickardson, who is one of my best friends in life, he says, "Hi, Red Terror. I can answer personally that I connect to the Norse gods over the Anglo-Saxon gods because of heritage." And I think that is a very good way of putting it. It is about heritage. But you don't have to be a Norse pagan or have a Norse pagan heritage to be a Norse pagan. And I see this on TikTok where you got channels that are very clearly not having a Norse pagan heritage, but yet some people come along with a very right wing and say, you can't be a Norse pagan because you're not white or you're not from Scandinavia. And I've even had that where certain Scandinavians have said, well, you can't be a Norse pagan because you're not from Sweden or Denmark or Norway. And that is wrong, it really is, because anybody can be a Norse pagan. It is a way of life and a way to live, and it's a positive way of life. So don't let anybody tell you any different. And I was thinking about this earlier. There's probably now, more than ever, more Norse pagans in the world than there ever has been when you think about population growth. And so, really, the Christianization of the pagans has massively failed on conversion because we're still around and we're growing, and there's more of us every day and every month and every year. So that does make me laugh. So go back to your comments. And Red Terror says, it's all the roots, they're all the same. Yes. I mean, if you go far enough back in time, everything's connected. But don't forget, we live in a world full of energy and electricity. Everything's energy in the world, so everything's connected through this, I like to see it as like a spider web kind of a connection where everything's connected. We're in this universe and the multiverse as well. So who knows, there could be a planet out there full of nothing but Norse pagans we've yet to discover. And Red Terror says, as they are Germanic. And Red Terror Production says, where are you from? Well, I'm from Derby in the UK. Now, if you do not know where Derby is, it's smack bang in the middle of England. And it's next to a famous city called Nottingham, who are famous for Robin Hood, of course. So, if you've got to think about England, it's like a bit of a shoe. I'm in the middle of it. And I really am quite landlocked. You couldn't be as far away from the sea as we are here. And so if you think about Scotland and London and you divide it in half, that's roughly where I am in the UK. And of course I come from a place called Derbyshire. Of course that's the county I come from. And if you want to know where I come from in the Viking times, I come from Mercia. I'm on the border of Mercia. Although Mercia did go a bit further down as well when the borders changed, of course. So, yeah. So I always consider myself to be a Mercian first. Then I'm a Derbian, or I'm from Derbyshire, and then a Midlander because I'm from the Midlands, and we call it the Midlands because it's the middle of England. And it says my ancestors were originally from Norway. Well, we all have mixed blood in our system. There's no such thing as a pure Englishman or pure Frenchman. We all got mixed blood. We all got relatives from all over the world. But especially if you're European or you're American, you probably got more of a European background. But when people do these DNA tests, they do get these sudden surprises that they found, and they got some really strange DNA in their family history. And Pyro says, I'm sorry about your father, my condolences. Well, thank you very much. He did live a grand old life until 91. So, and it changed a lot of people's lives in this time. So we should be thankful for that. And we've got a super chat here for $20. Well, thank you very much. That's very kind of you. And it says, hey, I finally caught you live, love your channel. Well, thank you very much. It does help because I've been going through some difficult times when it comes to finances, and I'll put that towards the channel, and I won't spend it myself. It will just go towards more kit and buy more kit in. There's a few more things I want to get in. I don't have a riveted set of mail, so I'll save up for one of them. But it also helps to run, the cost of making content, because it's not cheap when you're using electricity. and because all my life I lived with my dad and my family, I've never had to pay anything until this stage of my life. So it's been quite a shock that I'm now responsible for the gas and electricity, and I've literally been living in my house with one light bulb on. And if you come to my house a year ago when my dad was alive, it would have been a bit like Blackpool Beach. And what I mean by that is there's a place in England called Blackpool, and it's very famous for its illuminations and its lights. So it's very well lit up. So you would have seen every light on in the house. But these days I go about with a head torch, and I really do. And I don't use the gas very often. I don't have the heating on. I'm relying on the wood stove to keep me warm. And you know, if it's freezing cold, I'll have the gas on for an hour maybe in the evening. We'll just try to warm the house up. But you know it's cold, and you're changing the way you live, and it is freezing cold in the house, and you think, well, I'll get in bed early and keep warm in bed. But then again, that's probably something that the Vikings would have done as well. But I think they may have had, you know, bigger fires than what we have in our houses. And don't forget, when you do a super chat, you can always leave a question, and then that will prioritise your question in the chat feed. And also don't forget, we also do have merchandise on the channel as well, if you ever want to treat yourself to a t-shirt. And if there's a specific design you want, I can probably in the future tailor myself to make a design for you for any of the merchandise we have. I mean, we've got all sorts, key rings, mugs. I don't think we sold anything yet, and I think I've already had a few impressions. But I know at the time when I was talking to Eggle last year, I said we'll get on and we'll add merchandise because that will help the channel out. And I was doing it more for Eggle really because I wanted to give him some incentive to film more. So that's wonderful. So we've got Timothy and Hanega, the Goldar Brat. Bragi, you're live. What's up? Well, it's very nice to see you, Timothy. And I do love your comments, and they do make me chuckle. And like I said, you know, throughout the last 6 years, really, when I've been going through a really bad period of my life, this channel and you guys have kept me going. So it's something I wake up to every day thinking, yeah, I got this to look forward to. And it's just stopped me from going down a much darker route in my life. So thank you to you guys and girls for keeping me going and keeping me alive. Oh yes, that and caffeine, of course. So we'll go back to your comments. I do love reading your comments. There's not enough people do this on YouTube. You see these long live streams, but not enough people will take the time to read people's comments. Because if you got a minute to leave me a comment, the person behind the camera should have a minute to read the comment. And it's not just about me, it's about you guys. It's your channel as much as my channel. And as I said before, anybody can appear on the channel. You know, if you send me a video, if you want to send a video of asking you a question, and I'll reply to your question in my Viking kit, and that can be arranged. So Red Terror Productions says, for me, when I invoke the gods, I name them depending on the language I speak. When I am invoking them in Iceland, I always invoke them by the Norse names, and when I invoke them in English, well, that's very true. I mean, we just know the simple names of Thor, Odin. Some days I'll use Thunar or Woden. And then Red Terror says, I invoke them with the Anglo-Saxon names. It does vary on what you're also asking for as well. And Joshua Phillips says, I also invoke with Anglo-Saxon names. Well, that's something we'll look into in the future, and perhaps we'll make a video on how to invoke the gods and how to pray to the gods, because I think that would be quite worthwhile. And Red Terror says, like I said, it depends on the language I speak. And when speaking English, I call them Woden or Odin. Well, one of the most key people on the channel to talk about the names is Eirik, because Eirik is so keyed up on pronunciation, far more than what I am. So we'll have to try to encourage Eirik in the future to make some content on the names of the gods. So we've got Zodiac X Theory. Hello all. Hello Zodiac. Lovely to see you here. And then Joshua Phillips says, I pronounce Woden, Wothen. Yes. It's all down to the individual. I mean, there's no correct way of pronouncing the Norse names and gods. It's also very true with the word Siax. There's no correct way of pronouncing Siax. some people will say Seax, or Sax. There's no correct way. Although fundamentally the most correct and right way is Seax. But you know, you'll watch my videos, you'll see I pronounce it in all manner of ways. So, and Timothy says, the interesting thing is when considering that the various runes can slightly, depending on the versions in translations, the older Firth Ark, younger Firth Ark, and the Anglo-Saxon Firth Ark. Well, yes, I mean, I do have my runes around somewhere, the ones I made Eggle. And I was thinking the other day that perhaps I may film a series on the runes myself, because I did have Eggle film a series about every rune. But I was thinking, you know, perhaps I should do that series as well for you guys at some point when I've got enough time to write things down and prepare some notes for off camera and revise my memory. So Red Tail Production says Anglo-Saxon paganism, when reconstructed, would be a lot like Norse paganism. Well, very true. I think it'd be very, very similar in style. Well, that's one cup of tea. I've finished. I'm going to stop my other one now. It'll be going cold. So Joshua Phillips, San Antonio, Texas here. Cool. Like I said, I want to go to Texas one day. And Zodiac X Theory, I'd love to hear you talk about the political change of Valhalla from a grim place to a place of the honoured dead. Well, yes, it's a, you know, it's a place I'm looking forward to going in many years from now. And you know, it sounds a lot better than heaven in many aspects, because I think it's going to be more fun. But yeah, and then probably, you know, Valhalla was probably politically changed with the Christians, because they probably saw it more of a negative point of view, whereas Norse pagans don't see it as a negative place, they see it as a positive place. You know, yeah, fair enough, you got to die, you know, honourably on the battlefield. But how do we do that today? And I was thinking about this today. How do we, as Vikings in the modern world, die an honourable death and go to Valhalla? You know, we could probably say this about Eggle. You know, Eggle passed away because he got sepsis in a hospital. Is that an honourable way to die? And does he go direct to Valhalla? Well, in his case, yes, because he did great deeds in his life and he did great things, and especially on the channel. So, you know, you can kind of, I wouldn't say buy a seat in Valhalla, but you can certainly do good deeds in your life as a Viking to get yourself a good position in the table. But, you know, the world's changed. We can't exactly, you know, I can't exactly give the call out tomorrow. So, right, guys, we're going to go and make 100 long ships, and we're going to go and raid France next week, or we're going to go and raid Dublin, and we'll take over for a few months or a few years and see how it goes. Because, you know, we live in a world where, you know, it's heavily policed, and you know, I don't think either the Irish government or the French government would like a load of Vikings on long ships turning up, going around with M16s, because let's face it, you know, you're going to be a modern Viking, you're probably going to have a gun as well as a Dane axe, and go and cause, you know, problems, being careful to choose the right word. But yeah, I mean, and that there is a whole different subject on itself, talking about the political change of Valhalla from the way we saw it back in the day to the way we see it now, and the way the Christians see it. I mean, they will probably say, well, Valhalla is like hell, to, you know, but it's not. So Timothy says, from Blacksburg, Virginia. Oh yes, not sure. I've been to Virginia, but I'm not sure I've been to Blacksburg. I'd have to try to rig my try to remember the places I've been to in Virginia. But I mean, whenever I went to America, I always went to take part in American Civil War battle reenactments. So if there's a battlefield nearby, I may have gone to it. And we have another super chat from $5 from Zodiac X Theory. Would love to interview for your troubles. Well, yes, that could be arranged. I mean, and certainly somehow I do know that somehow I can invite people to the live stream to appear as well. So yes, so we'll have to try to figure that out in the future. And if anybody says, well, I'd love to join in the live stream and we could debate and talk about things, I'd very much like to get Iric on a live stream, because I think me and Iric just talking to each other about these things and having you guys listen and interact as well would be quite wonderful. But we've got to, as always, gauge these things around my work and Iweric's work, and of course you guys as well. But I think that will be a wonderful thing to do in the future. So thank you very much for that super chat. It does help, and it will go a long way to helping the channel out. Because, you know, it does get a bit frustrating when you're trying to go viral, you're trying to make content, and you're looking at your ad revenue, and last month you made £8, you know, and you think, oh my God, I spent hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and more hours making videos, and YouTube ain't being fair, you know, and you think to yourself, well, you know, perhaps we put ourselves in too much of a niche box, and that's why I've been trying to do more diverse and mainstream content, just to try to beat the algorithm. But I mean, I'm not the smartest person on this planet, unfortunately, or else I would have beaten the algorithm by now, and we would have gone viral, and we'd have 10,000 people watching right now instead of 8. And don't forget to go and like this, this live stream. I forgot what it was then, as well, and to share it. And we're currently on 8. So whoever does the next like and gets number 9 is going to be very lucky. So you're going to be panicking. Have I liked it? Have I liked it? You know. Because let's face it, 9 is a magical number to us Norse pagans. You know, you got the 9 worlds and so forth. So we'll just go back, make sure not missed any of your comments, and we will go and talk about some of these other things at some point. I mean, I certainly got the gift of the gab, and I can talk for England, let alone the rest of the UK. So I'm just going through, making sure I not miss any comments. No, that's good. And try to catch up. So Red Terror says, Mercia is probably my favourite historical Anglo-Saxon kingdom because of Pender of Mercia. That guy was a badass and total warrior. Yes, but he also brought about the Christianisation of the Mercians. So from that point of view, he wasn't so good, and he left his pagan values behind. He probably still practiced paganism, and he'll probably still Norse or Saxon pagan in many aspects, but he also probably worshipped the new god. And I often describe it to people a bit like Game of Thrones, where we worship the old gods and the new god. Because the old gods are better and they have better stories. I mean, if Jesus was a badass and went round battling folk with a big hammer, he would be even more much loved. But he didn't, did he? And that kind of reminds me of a song about Jesus playing football. Jesus was a goalie for the local football team. And Jesus was a goalie for the local football team. Jesus was a goalie for the local football team. And he saves, and he saves, and he saves. So I post and sing songs like that. So certain things will trigger my mind when a certain word comes into it, or a song, and then that's it then. I won't be able to get out of my head. So I'm glad I did that. I haven't got to sing it ever again now for a long time. So Timothy says, wanted to visit Britain and research some of the pre-Christian sites. Well, if you ever do, we'll meet up, Timothy, and I'll take you around some of the pre-Christian sites around Derbyshire I know of. You know, the Nine Ladies Circle, that goes way back in history, and some of the old burial sites. And of course, Derby's also famous for having some of the most early rock carvings and paintings in the UK. And Timothy says, I'm following you on both YouTube and TikTok too, Bragi. Oh, brilliant. Now, at some point, I've got to get back to the main channel. I do have another channel on TikTok, I think it's called Bragi Magnuson, where I've got a few videos, but I can't get access yet because I don't know my password, and I don't have my old phone at the moment due to a complication in my life. So at some point, I will be restarting, but I do need to get my phone back. Long story. And I literally, I think, must have like 800 or 900 videos in the draft section with a lot of Eggle videos that have never been published yet. So I will restart that at some point. And I often just use TikTok as a means to make videos to get them on here. And I just don't really concentrate enough on TikTok, mainly because I don't really see it as a way to make money. Although I am working with a woman, no idea what her name is yet. She's quite good. She's very attractive, I must say. I do work with some very attractive ladies, woof baby, as Eggle would say, and she's quite big on TikTok. And I think she's got like, I think she said she's got 3 million followers, something like that. And but I think women get it generally easier when it comes to content because of the fact that most people that watch content are male, and women have things like breasts and men don't. you know, and nice long legs. Well, you know, nobody wants to see my legs on breast, do they? But and then Zodiac X Theory says, how much would it cost to commission a small runestone for Eggle? Well, I have to think about that. I mean, yeah, I mean, what kind of a runestone would you want? But I have in the past made runes for people and sets of runes, and now and again I have made the occasional Thor's hammer. I've got about probably 50 to 100 Thor's hammers cast, ready just to do a bit of work on. So I thought myself at some point I may get round, I'll get some leather thong in and some more beads and put some on Etsy and send you a link. You guys could actually buy a Thor's hammer I've made in my pair of hands. So it's something I'm thinking about. But what, you know, if we do ever get successful on the channel and we do make a lot of money, then I am going to have commissioned a statue of Eggle, and then we'll find somewhere we can put it in the UK. I mean, I can't see Derby Council wanting a random statue of a Viking in Derby City, but if we could find somewhere that's associated with Vikings, and perhaps we could have, you know, a nice statue of Eggle built or carved from wood, and I think that would be a good way to honour him as well and to keep his memory going, because I think he would like that. Because to be immortalised in a statue, you know you've achieved something in life, and he would look down from Valhalla and he would smile and laugh, you know. Yep. So yeah, I'd love to do that. And don't forget, you can also follow Iric Rickardson on TikTok as well, as he has a channel, and he has some very good videos. And generally, I download his videos and upload them to this channel as well. So if anybody has TikTok and are interested, you can find me on there. This is from Iric. I put draft videos and Viking related stuff up there from time to time. So yeah, so please do follow Iric Rickardson. And also, if you are into wargaming, and especially Warhammer, do go and check out Eggle's Mustache Gaming. And that's by our super fan from Derby, Thomas Dale, who's been very quiet these last 6 weeks because he's a writer, and so he goes through these periods when you say, well, I won't be around much in September and October, I'll be writing and concentrating on that. So even though you do send him a text, I invited him out for a beer a couple of weeks ago, even offered to buy him a beer. I've not really heard back from him at all. It's because he's writing away, doing his novels. But he does have a nice little channel started and dedicated to Eggle. But it's mostly all about wargaming. We did say, and we did talk about having a wargame figure made of Eggle. You know, it'll be quite good as a wargame figure. That'd be funny. And Iric says, when we can figure a time, we will do a stream together, brother. Well, that's good. It's just, you know, we've just got to find time for me and time for you. And of course, I am wearing Eggle's beads today. As you can see, these are the beads and the Thor's hammer of Eggle. I found it the other day when I was looking through some of my stuff. I got his shoes, and Eggle used to keep these in his shoes. It's where you apparently, as a Viking, you should keep your Thor's hammer when you go to bed. You put it in your shoe. So I thought that cheered me up. So I'm wearing Eggle's Thor's hammer, and it's got a few decorations. I'll take it off and show you. So he's got a rune stone with a rune on. Can't remember which one. This is like a silver motif of one of the gods. I think that's Slipnir. Then he's got two other things that are the same. I think one maybe Freya, and a triangle in silver as one, and a Thor's hammer, which is quite a common design. And it's got beads as well as a stone. It's got a random stone on it for some reason. Of course, that's too many beads for the average Viking. The average Viking would have had probably no more than 1 or 2 beads on their necklace. It's a modern re-enactment where we're showing off our wealth by having too many beads. So when he used to wear this, I went and made a necklace which is recently the cord snapped, so all the beads would come off the cord. So I kind of competed with him and put a bigger Thor's hammer. So it's just me having a laugh. So we'll go back to your comments. So Red Terror says, I'm pretty sure Penda was a die-hard pagan to the end. His son Wolf here is who had Mercia converted. Yeah, I may be getting mixed up. His son was also, he had a son called Piedar who married and his wife had him killed, and he had a very short reign, if I remember. But I have got some notes for a video to talk about both Penda and Piedar. So Joshua Phillips says laughs out loud, and Red Terror says Penda was also reviled by Bede. That's the monk and the priest, of course, who like to write things down. But I think whenever Egil talked about Bede, he always made the interesting point about who was Bede actually writing for, because very few people would have the ability to read in those times. In fact, some of the Anglo-Saxon kings couldn't even read and have to have servants read for them who was better educated, and mostly they would be monks, because monks were better educated than anybody else in the world. So it is a very good point. Who was Bede writing for? Was he writing for us in the future to read his, his classical, works of the English history? But it is a interesting point. And he said the fact, and Bede, due to the fact that he was a powerful pagan warlord, refusing to give him the title Breitenwalder, despite being a very powerful king. Well, he was a very powerful king indeed. And I remember Eirik Rickardson. I remember about that stone on his bead. It's a hag stone for luck. Ah, yes, I think you're right. Although it's ironic though, because Egil was not. You can never really describe Egil as a lucky person. I mean, if something bad was going to happen to him, it always did. And he used to come round here and shake his fist, mainly at God, the Christian God, and go, "Oh, bloody hate you, bloody God, giving me bad luck." And then he'll go all Norse pagan again. I hope bloody Thor gives me some strength, and bloody Odin's looking down and give me some wisdom. So it used to make me laugh and chuckle. And of course, as he got towards the end of the filming, he kind of got a bit irated with the fact that he's been here for 3 or 4 hours and just wanted to go home, back to his home. Well, it wasn't the most cleanest of places, because he used to hoover, but he never hoovered around the edge. So he had 20 years of dust around the edge of his room, and it wasn't the most tidiest place in the world. And we've got a comment here from Martin Hale. Hi, sorry to hear about Bragi. Well, talking about my father, yes. And of course Egil. Egil died, and then my dad died 12 days after Egil, which I thought was quite ironic. And he died just before his 92nd birthday, on the 15th of July. So, and he says, sorry, Egil, if I spelt it right. Right, Egil is spelt generally E-G-I-O, but YouTube liked to spell his name. I think one point they used to call him Eagle Thorson, instead of Egil Thorson, because of auto translate, translated things automatically. Always made me laugh. And then he was called Major Eagle Thorson. I saw that one a few times, because I just don't have time to go and do the translation, let alone doing the subtitles on some of these longer videos, because there's just not enough time in the day. So we'll have a look and try to get updated with the comments. At some point we will carry on and talk about some of these things I'm going to talk about, just reminding myself. But some days it's just nice to do these live streams and read your comments back to you. So Red Terror says, have you ever looked into Wittgenstein, the Saxon king of northern Germany, who fought hard to keep paganism, but was defeated eventually by Charlemagne? Well, not really, because it's not so English. And perhaps I do often think about this. Perhaps we should read up on Frankish history and Saxon history and try to cover that a bit more as well, because when you come from England or you come from a country, you get very much a mindset of just thinking about your own country, and especially in education, they don't talk about other countries' history too much, Well, eventually it'd be good to cover all these kings, because certainly 20 to 30% of our watch time and views come from search. So having all these topics and all these kings searchable on the channel would be good. And Martin Hale says, it's a housecarl from 1066, dressed as a nobleman. Oh yes. Or a huscarl. Or comes from the word, well, it basically means house husband. Well, that's husband, isn't it? Husbandi. But it does make you think whether, the word husband and housecarl have some kind of connection. Probably do, but I can't. Unfortunately, I just don't remember everything. And then Red Terror says, huscarl, aka housecarl, in Icelandic literally means houseman. Well, yes, generally so. It's keeper of the house or the house husband. And, it's probably a bit sexist to a certain degree. But then again, women also had power in the Viking times and Saxon times, because they often would keep the key to the money chest and the key to the weapons chest. But let's face it, women are very practical and good thinkers. So get rid of this mug. I don't want to damage it. I'll continue drinking my cup of tea. It does make you think what would they, what kind of hot drink they would have had. Perhaps warm beer. And Red Terror says also, I got to mention this, Turkey's name literally means Turks in Icelandic. Oh right, I didn't know that. And I've been to Turkey. So I've been to Turkey 3 times in my life. That's 3. And it's a wonderful place. I've been to Istanbul, or Constantinople. And yeah, it's a wonderful, wonderful place to visit. And the people are very nice as well. But it's a big country to go around. I definitely want to go to Turkey again. And some of the Greek islands as well, like Rhodes, Corfu, Crete. I've been to 3 of them. Greece, the mainland, I've been there. So I am well travelled, but I'm just not travelled recently. Because I was stuck at home caring for my old dad, or father, in the old Proto-Germanic sense of the word. And Martin Hale says, I went to the Battle of Hastings re-enactment as a Saxon. Very good show. Have you just been recently, or is that in the past you went? Well, I don't know any Viking groups that go really to join. I mean, it's something I've got to think about doing. I might join Anglo-Saxon, but I don't know. They're a very good group, but they're based more around Northumbria. And there isn't really any groups in the Derby area. There used to be the Derby Viking group, but that folded because of politics. But, and he says, and Iric OJ says, do you ever eat turkey? Well, yes, on Christmas dinner. Although, according to my girlfriend this year, we're going to have venison. So, I look forward to that. Hope it's not organic, it's going to be very expensive. But then again, you only live once and you only love once in your life. So, if she wants venison, she can have venison. And hopefully, it'd be nice to have some company on Christmas dinner. Though I do have a plan B, because I think in life you always need a plan B. And I think this is a Viking thing. But you got plan A. Your plan A is to do this, but you could always have a plan B. So my plan B is to go round to my mate AD's for Christmas dinner. And he was telling me the other day, he says whenever he goes on a picnic, he said, how people have a picnic, when you take a basket of food. So people always bring sandwiches, don't they? And sausage rolls and crisps. So that I don't, he says. I bring a whole effing chicken, he says. Cooked, of course. And then we have that on my picnic. And people always say, bloody hell, Adrian, that's the best chicken I've ever had in my life. I don't think it's very right. If you're going to have a picnic, do it in style. So I do like that. So I do like turkey because it's a much richer meat compared to chicken. But then again, on turkey, on Christmas Day, you always end up with a big turkey. There'll be 2 of you and you've got a whole turkey. You'd be eating turkey for days and days and days. In fact, I used to put it in the freezer and it used to hang about for a long time. I like duck as well. I mean, you can get these 3 birds where they stuff a bird inside a bird inside a bird. So, you know, you could have a turkey with a chicken stuffed inside of it, and then a duck stuffed inside the chicken inside the turkey. That sounds quite nice. And then, as Adrian was saying when I saw him a few days ago, he said, you know, people always cook a chicken wrong as well. He said, you know, you get your oven hot and you put your chicken with the crown facing upwards. That's wrong, he says. You put it upside down and cook it. It's much better, and you get a more crispy skin. So I might have to try that. And I remember when you used to go out and buy a whole chicken for a couple of pounds, and now they're like £5. So everything's gone up in price. And then it says, Bragi, I won't admit to this, but I'm personally bodyguard or huskarl, always an axe at the ready. Ha ha ha. Well, you always need an axe at the ready. Here we are. Got my axe just in case anybody comes in unannounced. Not that I had taken with it, because I would use a household object, so you're not arrested by the old police or the feds, as I sometimes call them in the videos. But and that was the Dane axe I brought for Eggle, and it does have a pattern, but I think if I bring it a bit closer to the camera, you may just see it. Now, unfortunately, it's not inlaid. It's just been engraved. But at some point, I will do a review on this Dane axe. It's more of a modern interpretation, because I don't think you really want to go into battle with this, because it's too heavy, being it's pure stainless steel. And I said it's slightly sharp. It's not a blunt one, so it's not been designed to hit people. And then of course it's riveted on because it's so damn heavy. But it's ideal for Eggle because it was the perfect height under his armpit. For me, it's a little bit short in the length. I'd like another 2 or 3 inches on my shaft or haft. But this is a mass-produced modern one. It's like, you know, you get these Lord of the Rings, swords, or swords, like you can go and buy, the sword from Braveheart or whatever. It's just by one of those companies that mass produce, but it is a bit of quality. Yeah, it looks quite nice when it shines like that. Oh yeah, that would have been a good thumbnail. But can a Dane axe be too heavy? Well, I think so. I mean, this is definitely too heavy in my aspect. I mean, I think I'll struggle to hold it in one arm. I can't do it. It's too heavy. But of course, you don't fight with a Dane axe with one hand. It's a two-handed weapon. Unless you had a light Dane axe and you could saw the handle off short, then you could use it as a one-handed weapon. I mean, why do you want to get your Dane axe handle and saw it in half is beyond me. But I must say, I think that's rather sexy and rather nice. And you can't beat a good Dane axe. Oh yes, can't beat a good Dane axe. But it makes you think, why don't we have a Norwegian axe or a Swedish axe? Why Danes? Why do the Danes get their own axe? What about a good Saxon axe? But it does make you think why it's called a Dane axe. Probably because the Danes used it more than any other Viking, and therefore the name stuck. And let's face it, the Danes came over in vast numbers, as well as the Norwegians, and the Swedish not so vast numbers until much later on. So it was more of a, to go Viking was more of a Norwegian or a Danish thing to do. And then of course things changed because Iceland came about, and then they came from Iceland as well. But you've got to be very brave to step into a longship and to sail 1,000 miles in the rough seas and hope to get there. Because that too is not a very honourable way to die if your ship breaks up or you get, dragged overboard by a wave, and you're weighing your mail if you're stupid enough, and you sink to the bottom of the sea. No, that's not a nice way to go. Well, they don't wear the mail on a long ship. You'll put it in a leather bag, and they would have animal fats to cover the weapons, and they'd have war chests under the seats or in the boats themselves. Maybe they'll have a hand axe at hand just in case they saw enemy Viking longships that needed to go and raid and attack. Because let's face it, if you're out in the sea and you see an Anglo-Saxon ship, you're going to go and raid it and try to take over it. If you've got 50 Vikings on board and there's only 20 of them, well, it's a win, isn't it? And you're going to get 2 ships, a load of goods, a load of silver, a load of swords and axes. You're going to kill a load of Saxons, so that's 20 less Saxons in the world, and you got yourself another longship now for your fleet. Still got tea left. Wow, wicked. We'll go back to your comments. Make sure we're not missed any. You got to click on this and update the live chat. So no more comments. That's okay. That's good with me. Well, not really good. I like more comments. But it's always nice to hang about with you. And I'm sorry that I've not done enough of these in the past. I'll try to get in the habit of doing at least one a week, but I think at the moment I'll try every other day and see how that goes. Because at the moment I'm not really going to see my girlfriend because she's not being too well, and you know it takes me half an hour to drive to see her and half an hour back. And of course I've got a my vehicle's rather expensive when it comes to fuel because it's a 2.4 turbo diesel, and diesel's not cheap. I think it's £1.60 a litre, which is bloody expensive in my mind. And of course, if I put my foot down and decide to go a bit faster, it don't half use it up. But it's very practical for getting your Viking kit in the back. So we got a comment here from Toy Boy, and he says hello. So hello, Toy Boy. We have a comment here from Matthew Watson. Who would win in a to death fight, Thor or Freya? Well, I think Thor would win. I would have thought so. I don't know though. I mean, you know, yeah. I think Thor would win in my mind. He's stronger. You know, he's got more power. He could call upon lightning to lighten Freya to bits. But then again, I was watching a bit of the extract from the new Batman movie where Batman was fighting Superman, and we all know that Superman's going to win, isn't he? You know, I do think Batman put up a good fight, really, especially when he got some krypton in that little rocket grenade which Superman caught in his hand, then weakened him and got the upper hand. But he should have carried on doing that until he pulverised, Superman to bits. But then again, Superman could just go turn around and snap Batman's neck in 2 seconds, and then Batman would be dead forever. So. Yeah, and I'm not seeing the whole movie. No, I'm not seeing that yet. I want to see it. But it does make you think that would be a good subject for a video, comparing the different gods fighting each other and who would win. But ultimately, they're all on the same side, so Thor and Freya wouldn't want to fight each other too much. And then Ivic says Dane axes should be light enough to swing, but heavy enough a weight to cleave through a horse and its rider. Well, that's the myth side of it, at least. Well, that's true. I mean, that Dane axe is, like I said, a commercial Dane axe, so it is too heavy. It's not being used. It's not being made to be used on the battlefield. It's just being made to hang on your wall and look nice. So a good Dane axe should be light enough where you can hold it in one hand at the end of the shaft or haft and do a figure of 8 and chop through a horse's head and the rider at the same time. But also it's got to be very, very sharp to do that. Most Dane axes aren't sharp, they'll be blunt for combat, and there's not many people can fight with a Dane axe properly in re-enactment because it's a very, very skilled weapon. I think ultimately it's probably one of the most skilled weapons you can fight with in Viking re-enactment. Maybe the mace is another skilled one because that can be quite top heavy. But then again, I don't really recommend using the mace because I don't think I have them around here. They'll be in my war chest over there. Perhaps one of the live streams we'll get all my weapons out one by one and talk about them. Would you like to see that in a live stream? If I have my war chest at hand and I take every weapon out individually and talk about it on camera. And then it says in the fight was a race between Thor's goats and Freya's cats, then that would be interesting. Well, yeah, that would be. I mean, I think a cat would be more vicious than a goat, but I don't know. I mean, goats can be quite bad-tempered, and goat will eat anything, but a cat won't. So he would win that one. I mean, this is where you need Harry Hill, and somebody dressed as a goat and somebody dressed as a cat. If you don't know who Harry Hill is, he's a British comedian. But that does make you think. Yeah, I wouldn't want to mess with goats, but then again, you know, I don't want to mess with cats either. Depending what, you know, it's like mountain lions, even worse. I mean, they're not like the average, you know, ginger Tommy, are they? They're definitely something more interesting. I mean, it's funny how we don't know their names. It's a pity we lost the names of Freya's cats to history. Perhaps one day we'll find a rune stick in a bog or some page of a manuscript which will mention the names itself. So let's just pray to the gods for that. I'm going to finish my tea and then get on to some rum and coconuts because I'm very thirsty. I've been working hard today and I had a very long sleep last night after I got up. I had about 4 hours sleep, but I got up, watched a bit of TV for a bit, ate a load of food because I was hungry, and then went back to bed again and then woke up in the afternoon, but I'm just catching up with my sleep. Some days you got to do that. Oh yes. Because I'm using what you call a mucket. This is an American Civil War drinking vessel. It's got a load of ice in. And I've got a decanter. Because Viking didn't have these, but this is a Prince Charles crystal decanter. And then I'll pour some rum in. It's about 3 shots. Oh, a bit more. It's nearly Christmas, isn't it? Oh yes, and a very posh job of them. And somewhere I've got some Coke, but I didn't leave it around here. Back in a minute. Hang on. I left my Coke over here. Very bad. Now you definitely know you're getting old when getting out of your chair, or you got to kneel down because of your job and you got to get back up again, and it takes you a while. Of course, Vikings didn't have Coca-Cola, but I'm thirsty, so I'll make sure we pour a bit of that in there. Coconut ice, it's one of my most favourite drinks with a bit of rum. Oh yes. I work with a guy called Lee. He's one of my bosses, and he loves his coconut ice. And he was having some the other day called Kraken, after the mythical sea beast, and it's like double strength rum. Oh, I can taste that. Oh, lovely. I'm going to sleep like a log tonight. And don't forget to like the old live stream and share it with your friends. If you've got loads of friends who like Viking stuff, then don't forget to share it. You can see my modern curtains in the corner. I do have a couple of nice Viking silver bits. Here we have a neck ring. This is made from silver, twisted, and it's got a bit of wire going in between. And this goes around your neck, and this again shows your wealth as a Viking. They're not bad to wear, but that one's okay, that one. And then here I have this is a penannular brooch based on the Silverdale find, and I'm sure you agree that's a very big cloak pin, and that's all pure silver as well. And you can have a look at that perhaps on camera. This was one I bought from Turkey many years ago, but the only problem is it's got a very long pointy bit on it, on the old pin. So if you're walking about with it, you've got to be careful not to stab yourself or stab somebody else. But of course these can also be used as a weapon. Maybe not if they're made from silver, but certainly if you've got an iron cloak, you know, penannular brooch, you get two sorts. You've got annular, and an annular is one where it's completely sealed and it's a loop of metal and there's no gap, and you've got a penannular, and this is a penannular because there's a gap in between so you can manipulate your pin. And like I said, this is based on one of them from the Silverdale find, and that's in the British Museum. And again, this is probably oversized for the very fact that as reenactors we like to show off what we got. So you go along to an event and someone wears a really big cloak pin, and somebody else will come along the week after and say, look, I made an even bigger one. It's all about saying, you know, it's a bit really to do with ego, really. Now I never had this made. It was one of Turkey's. Not that I'm saying that he's got an ego, but It's just a reenactor's thing to get something bigger than your mate. You know, my sword's shinier than yours. Okay, as I kick the camera. Bad feet, behave yourself. But that's very nice. Of course, it's not a solid, so this will be a tube, and this is a tube as well. And these are hollow, so these would have been cast in 2 segments. As I try not to poke my eye out, and the same here. This will be cast in 2 segments, and then it would have been silver soldered together. Which in those days was a real skill. It does make a nice noise. And somewhere, if I've got it at hand, I've got some else to show you. So you're not seeing it on camera, and I'm not actually unwrapped this yet or unboxed this, but I'll give you a exclusive look at what's in this little box. So I have a box. At some point I've got to seal this back up. Generally when I get a parcel, I generally open it up first to check on the item. And in here we'll have a look what we got. It's another silver bracelet. I think this came from Poland. It was about £15–20, and I thought for solid silver that's a good buy. So I got that in there, but also I've got some else in my bag. We'll show you. Of course, I've got to film these at some point and make an unboxing video. I have this. This is a real nice disc brooch, and this is the one with the 12 sensors or around it. You probably won't see it too cleverly on this camera, but I must say that is very nice. Not as nice as TK's got a much nicer one because it's thicker and silver. This is just like a sheet of silver. It's been pressed out, and these should be rivets instead of pressed. So these have just been soldered on, these little raised rivet heads, but they would be rivets back in the day, or they would be hollow in the back and pushed out and punched out. But I thought that was quite nice. I did pay quite a bit of money for that. I think it was about £70–80. I think it was some Etsy, I think. But I do like a bit of silver. So that's something else I've got to unbox. And I think that's it for that. Oh no, there's one more thing in here, which is a nice tris ring I got for about £10. So I think that's not too bad for a silver tris Viking ring. Not the chunkiest piece of silver, but for £10 you don't get a lot of money for £10 these days. So that's some else that came with that item. And the company was Glitter Beads, who I got that from. I think that's where the disc brooch came from. And they're Viking crafts, I think that's where that came from. When I do the unboxing video, I'll go on my Etsy site and I'll remind myself, because I bought that like 6 months ago and it's just been sitting in this sack. And you did get a nice sack with it as well, which I thought was a nice touch to send that out in a sack rather than just send it wrapped in some bubble wrap. So I think whenever you see that from a trader, it's a very good sign of quality and a good sign that the trader actually cares about how to send stuff out. So, and yes, I am wearing a modern jumper because I'm only wearing this on the outside as Viking clothing. But would you know I'm wearing a modern jumper on camera? Would you recognise me wearing a modern jumper? I think it's from Top Man. A lot of my clothes come from Top Man when there used to be a shop. Yeah, and it is a very large cloak pin. You know, it's meant to sit on your shoulder here, so you can see how much it sticks out. It's very, very large indeed. I mean, if it was 6'8", you know, and built like a brick shit house, pardon my French, then that would be ideal. For me, it's a little bit too big to wear, because it also drags your cloak down as well. And when TK used to have this, he used to have a piece of antler at the end on a piece of leather cord just to stop anybody having their eyes poked out, because, you know, that would, you know, I could push that straight from my hand very easily. It's very sharp, not that I'm going to on camera, so it is a danger. But you can also see why a woman would fight with something like this, because let's face it, you're in your long house and a Viking's coming in and you get a chance to stab him with this. That's going to do a lot of pain. You know, it'll probably bend the silver pin if it was silver. Better if it was an iron one, but it would do a lot of damage. And we'll go back to your comments. And Ivy says Freya's cats are called Beagle and Drago. Oh, all right. So I didn't think they had names. I didn't think we know that. So you had something new then. This is always nice. And Ivy says Kraken rum is the bollocks. Whenever anybody in the UK says it's like top bollocks, it basically means it's very good. But it can also describe things as being bad, like, oh, that's bollocks, isn't it? Like, it's knackered, or it's broken. Oh, look, my car's completely bollocksed. Right, who's bollocks my day axe? So, bollocks is a very diverse word, and can mean good, it can mean bad, or it can just mean a pair of bollocks. Of course, bollock is also a medieval monk's habit. It's also called bollocks because of the Sex Pistols, and they had Never Mind the Bollocks as one of the album covers, and they tried to stop it from being published, but they couldn't because it's an old English byword for a monk's habit. So it says yes, Kraken rum is the bollocks. Sorry for the rudeness, but I regret nothing. Well, you should never regret anything in life. I mean, let's face it, most of our audience is male and is men. You know, that's my pronoun. I'm a man. I mean, him, you know, he or she or her. What's all that bollocks about? Anyway, that's enough of me going on about the woke universe we live in. And then Timothy says, crikey, that's a hood cloak bin. That wouldn't make my kilt. Well, yes, it is. It's massive. I mean, you couldn't really get any bigger than that for a cloak pin. You really couldn't. And I actually made a tryst ring from silver clay today. It was a fun process, and being sterling silver, I will pretty flash now. Ha ha ha! Yeah, I mean that silver clay material does look quite nice, and yeah, you could make a silver tryst ring out of it. But what I like to know is how tough, you know, could you break the ring if you, after it's sorry, I farted then badly. After you form the ring from silver clay, would you better break it by hand? I like a normal silver ring, which is pretty tough, and you won't be able to break it unless you're like, you know, 6'10" and built like a brick, you know, house you go to the toilet in. I'd be interested to know that, how tough it is. And if I had some spare money, I'll buy some to experiment with it. But I've got other things I need to pay for, like electricity and gas and water. Well, why the heck do we have to pay for water in this day and age? And especially considering how much profits they make, and how much of those profits go to foreign countries, and people that have invested in all the bloody shares, and the rich people that own the shares of all these water companies. But yeah, I'd be interested to see that tryst ring, Eric, how it's come out, and how it actually polishes as well. That's probably what you could also do if you're making a tryst ring out of silver clay. You could get some nice fine brass or copper and tryst that beforehand, and then you could tryst that in at the same time, so you got a different changing colour. That would be very interesting as well. But I'll go back to my rum and coke. I'll probably put so much rum in there, I'll be drunk as a ferret in a bit. And it was interesting the other day, somebody was talking about getting a ferret. I was thinking about that, so I sometimes ask my girlfriend 10 random questions, and number 11, number 12 was, number 11, do you want a ferret for Christmas? And number 12 was, if you had a ferret, what would you call it? I think if I had a ferret, I'd probably call it Compo. Yeah, out of respect out of Compo from Last of the Summer Wine, but I don't think that's a very good name for a ferret. So I have to think of something else. Give it a good Viking name, perhaps. I mean, did Vikings have ferrets? I don't know. I mean, ferrets have been around a long time. Makes you think. So look, what else we're going to talk about? Yes, we're going to ask Alexa some Viking questions in a little bit. If you want me to do that, let me know. Or any more questions you want me to talk about, I'm more than happy to. I won't carry on too long on the live stream, but I'm not ending yet. So at some point, I've got to get to bed, and I'm tired. And I've had a shower, and I'm not even combed my hair yet. I don't actually have a good bone comb. It's on my list of things to buy. So Timothy says, I used to make things doing sand casting, also make the cast in plaster, then use the cast to make the mould and sand. A very old true form of smithing. Well, definitely so. And plaster is a very old thing indeed. I mean, the Romans had it. So just make you think, what is it made out of? I forget now. I made a load of moulds for my wargaming and cast a lot of things in plaster. It's quite fun to work with. And certainly a lot of, people that sculpture things work in plaster as well, rather than working from stone, which is quite interesting as a medium. Before, you can make a plaster statue and then have that cast in bronze. But another fascinating material to use. I've got my old sea axe ready, just in case anybody comes in and tries to burgle the house. No hobbits are coming in this house to burgle my jewels and gold. But I won't mind seeing the Lord of the Rings again. I enjoyed those films, but it's been a long time since I've seen them. But I did watch the other day when Aragorn went into the mountain to talk to those evil ghost creatures. I thought that was quite good. So the line's been broken, and the guy attacked him, and his sword, Aragorn's sword, stopped him, and then all these skulls came down. And he says hilts, pommels, and also so on. Well, yes, you could definitely make a pommel out of plaster, and then you could cast it in a sandbox and then make the actual pommel itself. That's another good way of doing it. And then you could probably make a few casts from the same plaster cast copy as well. So yeah, and you can't beat a good pommel. I mean, the only one I got at hand is with this sword here. That's not a bad one. That's more of the Anglo-Saxon design because it looks like a loaf of bread. And that's an armour class blade, not a bad blade itself. When I brought this, this is the scabbard it came in, and so I bought the sword and I'm thinking, oh, I've got a very long sword here, and I can't remember what I paid for it, because I tried to figure out if I'm going to do the knot. Here we go, I didn't double knot it. But then when you compare the actual sword to the actual scabbard, you notice there's quite a bit of a difference in the length of the scabbard and the length of the sword. So I was partly disappointed, but then again I did buy the sword for much lower than the actual cost of a brand new sword from Armour Class. But they got some very nice Viking ones I won't mind having. And then I did ask the guy that I bought this from why the scabbard is much longer, and he said, well, he had another sword, and the original sword for this broke, and so he bought another sword from Armour Class, and luckily it fitted in the scabbard, and that's why it's got this scabbard. But it doesn't make you think what he did with the broken sword. But it feels nice. Yeah. This was the one I bought for Eggle to use. And don't forget, this is also a weapon, because you can bash the enemy in the skull if you're in the shield wall, or you can go upwards and bash him underneath. Although I think I prefer to bash down than have my sword at hand rather than bashing up, because your blade's quite restricted, and you can't really do much with your blade. You'll have to try to flick it out in your hand and get it back up again. So I think bashing down is much better than bashing up with your pommel. But of course it's there to add balance to your blade as well. Without this sword would be very fastly unbalanced and wouldn't work right. And of course you need a crossguard or a crillium to protect your hand, and that's very common sense that is. And it does protect your hand, because the sword will slide down and without that, you got a sharp sword sliding down. It's going to cut your fingers off, or badly cut them. And unlike Hollywood, it doesn't make one of those swordy sounds, and you don't wear it on your back either. That's another Hollywood fantasy thing. So we have a comment here from out of Siberia. Hey, old brother Bragi, good to see you, and a big smiley face with I don't really understand emojis, I must say. I think at some point I need to go online and buy myself a dictionary of emojis so I can actually understand what every emoji means. Because I understand a few of them, like smiley face and laughing ones. The beer emoji, I understand that one very well, you know, and the cheers and 2 beers ones. But yeah, I really do need to go out there and buy a dictionary of emojis. So, and we've got another comment here from Offer 10. Hello everyone. So hello Offer 10 and hello to out of Siberia, 2 of the old fans and subscribers to the channel. And we have been going for a long time on this channel. It's been a good long journey and we're not finished yet. Oh yes, and we all need a Viking sword in your life. Even if you don't use it, you just hang it up on your wall, it's good enough. And basically this is a piece tie, and I basically fasten it by doubling it over, and then I'll put it underneath my top shape, which is this bit of bronze brass decoration, and then I'll put it through, have it equal in the back, and then I can tie my sword off. And I'm not really in favour of King Alfred's rule when it comes to having a piece tie, but I'm in favour of having one on your sword so that when you're running into battle you don't lose your sword. But you've got to have the ability to unwrap it quickly so you can get it out. The last thing you want is to be telling some guy you're about to have a duel with, say, hang on mate, you know, just hold your shield for a minute, I've got to undo my sword. Because, you know, if somebody came up to me in a battle, we're having a duel, I will just go in and kill him straight away. So next time, be prepared. It does make you think how long it takes to undo one of these. We'll have a go and we'll time it. I mean, I bet you know, what's that? 15 seconds. I mean, that's the difference between being alive and being dead as a Viking. It really is. So, okay for moving about the battlefield tied up, but when you do need to use it, you've got to make sure it's undone. And don't double knot it or you've got twice the work. So we'll have that there for a few minutes and I'll drink some rum and coke and ice. Yes, and Iric says, Alfred and his bloody peace ties. Grrr. Yeah, it makes you think whether the Vikings have got an equivalent, a war tie, you know. Perhaps we should invent one. I mean, probably modern Vikings would have Bokuo, you know, undo your sword. And another thing is when you're doing the braiding, because I made this bit of cord by hand, it's a lot of bloody hard work just to braid a bit of cord, because, you know, there's at least, I have to do it at least 4 times. I make 3 lots of braid and add those 3 lots of braid together to make 1 braid. And that's a lot of work on your hands and your wrists. So you really got to appreciate anybody that spends time making braiding, you know, it's a bloody laborious job. No wonder they got bored at night in the long hours and had to do stuff. Oh, lovely. This is why I like my mucket, you've got a handle. But can I handle the rum inside of it? I think I can. Yes, so I think we're getting to the point now where we're going to ask the computer to tell us about Vikings. Computer, tell us about Vikings.
The Vikings were Scandinavian seafarers who explored, traded and waged battles around Europe during the 8th to the 11th century.
Oh, that's mostly true, but they did continue a bit later on that. I mean, they certainly raised Scotland, you know, into the later part of the 11th century. I mean, we all seem to think that everything ended in 1066, but it didn't, because there were still Scandinavians, Vikings about, and they still raided places. It's just that they didn't really come into England anymore because of the fact that, you know, they've had their big defeat, and so forth. Let's ask computer, how do you say hello as a Viking?
Okay, but which language do you want me to translate to?
Norse.
Sorry, I don't speak Nose yet.
It says nose. Stupid thing. Computer, tell us about Viking longhouses.
From moviecultists.com. Long rides, up to 6 hours, burn a lot of fat and give you a good endurance
Right,
base for
computer,
later
you got
in the
that
season.
wrong. This is the problem with AI. It gets things very badly wrong. Computer, tell us about the Anglo-Saxons. Who were they?
The Anglo-Saxons were a cultural group that inhabited much of what is now England in the early Middle Ages and spoke Old English.
Or Old English. Old is the old Anglo-Saxon word for old. Computer, can you fart like a Viking?
Sorry, I don't have an answer for that.
No, I don't have an answer for that one. Do you have any questions to ask my computer? Computer, tell us about Viking swords. Right, try to get on for it. Computer, tell us about Viking swords. I'm going to give up in a
The
minute.
Viking Age sword or Carolingian sword is the type of sword prevalent in Western and Northern Europe during the early Middle Ages.
Oh, there you go. I don't think I'll be using Alexa as a means to gather information from my videos. But I did ask it once about the Battle of Hastings, and no, that was AI. That was Chat GPT, and it said the Battle of Hastings during the World War I in 1915. And I thought to myself, well, that's very wrong, isn't it? So we're going to read some more of your comments, but do like your comments and make sure we caught up with all your live comments. I think I'm maybe missing a few. And Ivy says, I actually made another piece tie yesterday, white and purple. My fingers were all buggered afterwards. Yes, it's a lot of hard work on your hands and your wrists because you've got to keep folding the braid over. Perhaps I'll demonstrate it in a video and show you how to make braid. But it's a lot of hard work. I mean, whether women are better at doing that than men, I don't know. I mean, I suffer from carpal tunnel syndrome, so after a while of gripping things, my hands kind of go a bit rigid. It's just old age, I'm afraid. But I just get on with it. And then Offer 10 says, where's the best place to buy a Viking sword in England? I stopped from the night shop a long time ago. Now, what I wouldn't buy from the night shop, because most of them are just very commercial blades. I'd either go to Armour Class, who have reasonable blades, but you have to pay up front before you get one too. Or, if you got the money and the coin, I would go to Paul Binns, that's B-I-N-E-S, and buy a blade from him. Because he undoubtedly sells the best blades in the UK, and possibly the best Viking blades in the world. Although, again, there'll be a waiting list. And you probably have to pay either a good deposit up front or not for the whole blade. Now, I did hear a rumour that his apprentice left him and started up his own business, but I'm not sure what the name of that is. So those are the two sources I would go to. Number one would be Paul Binns. I don't mind waiting a year to get a Paul Binns blade because they are the best. Armour Class, you're probably waiting 3 months, 6 months for a sword, unless they have it in stock. If you've got it in stock, then you're laughing, and you'll get it pretty much in a few weeks. I mean, there's Maxim Armories that sells blades, but then again, the problem with Maxim Armories, you'll be waiting a long time to get your stuff. And you're going to get a bit irated with the number of times you're going to have to communicate with Max to remind him, is my sword ready yet? And, bless the guy, he's probably got inundated with tons of orders. And as traders, they often lose track of time and track of orders, so that they can find it difficult to keep up with demand. So those are the sources I'd go to. I mean, you've got Gelling Dragon, but they're more commercial these days. They used to be very, very good, Gelling Dragon. So you could try them as well for a good sword. It depends whether you want a blunt sword or a sharp sword. Now, recently I did buy a sword from Celtic Red Merchant, In fact, I don't have it, but I got the scabbard. I can show you the scabbard. But so far, I've not unboxed this yet. So this is a scabbard of a sword I've got, as I got to unbox still. So you can see it's still got its wrapper on. It's actually a 5th century sword, so very pre-early, Anglo-Saxon. And I thought it was quite good quality. Nice leather scabbard with a bit of a nice wooden bit at the back where you put your bolt through as an option. So, and a nice bit of decoration. But that was a sharp sword, not a blunt one. So it also depends on whether you want a blunt sword. So you could also go to Celtic Web Merchant, and I ordered some stuff. I'll tell you a little story, and I thought this was very good. So I ordered, what did I order? I think I ordered 3 swords and a Germanic sea axe. And the order didn't come. I'm waiting for it, and the order never came. And I followed the tracking, and it got shipped to the UK, and it got shipped back to their headquarters. They're based in Luxembourg. I know you think to yourself, being called Celtic Web Merchant, they'll be based in Ireland, but they're not. And so I contacted the trader. I said, well, what's happened to my stuff? I said, oh sorry, they got my address wrong, basically. So they cancelled the order, and then they reimbursed my money. It was like £250, but yet they still sent the stuff out as a good gesture. And they do that all the time, apparently. So I thought that was very good that I got basically, 2 or 3 swords and a good sea axe, and I got my money back, and I basically paid nothing at all for it. Although I did have to pay an import tax of about £70–80, and then it had to go through British import system and customs and get checked, and you get to fill a load of forms in saying, well, why are you ordering a sharp sword? Why are you ordering a sharp knife? Because they want to know everything, the nosy bastards. But I thought that was very good how I got reimbursed, but yet they still sent my stuff out in the end. So you could try them as well. Apart from that, anybody else got any more recommendations of where to buy a good Viking sword from? I mean, if you know an engineering factory, you could probably have one laser cut out yourself if it's made out of spring steel, but then you're going to need to heat treat it, which is one of the problems. So if you're making a sharp sword, it's not so much of a problem, because you could grind it sharp yourself and either buy a pommel and a crossguard or make them, and people do that all the time. But if you've got any recommendations where you can get a good Viking sword for offer 10, then I'd love to hear your options. And then Irish says, the night shop is where I got my sword from. I favour the axe, but it's mostly for status symbol. And then Timothy says, there's a reason why artificial intelligence is artificial. Well, yes. I mean, certainly I do use it for some of my video titles, and some days, I've asked it to write short stories, and it's done that quite well. So it's got its uses, but it's not quite up to scratch yet. I mean, it all depends on where we are on the curve and how much it's going to affect society. Because they do say that within 10 years, the West is going to lose about 1.5 billion jobs due to artificial intelligence. But you've got to imagine there's a big, long curve, and depending where we are on the curve, how much it's going to affect us. Now, if we're at the very beginning of this curve, then AI is going to come in big time, and it's going to affect a lot of things and change life completely. If we're halfway through that curve of growth, then it's still going to change things, but not so much. And if we are towards the top end of the curve, where there's going to be a little growth, it's not going to change things too much. But my prediction is that, well, we're at the bottom of the curve, we're down here, and we're at the very beginning of AI coming in. And then, you're going to get AI, and then you're going to get robotics comes in after that. So, it's going to be interesting the next couple of decades how, firstly, AI is going to come in and change the world, and then secondly, how, robotics is going to come in and change the world. Now, recently I was working at a garage, a job with one of the mainstream garages in the UK, and you know, so I was working a till most of the time, and I was thinking to myself, well, you know, AI is going to change a lot of this job because, you know, you got to do age verification for alcohol and for vapes. So, you know, I can imagine AI doing that job for you, and there'll be a camera behind you, and it will do a facial recognition of the person in front of you, and it will send a signal saying you need to age check this person. Because, you know, as human beings, we can't always tell the age of somebody, whether they're 18 or whether they're 22, for instance. You know, 4 years is not a massive difference in somebody's age, but it makes a massive difference if you're not legally allowed to sell alcohol to somebody who's you know, 17, for instance, compared to somebody who's 19. So I imagine in that aspect it's going to change things. And then I thought to myself, well, you know, you get cars put up to the petrol station, and some people will drive off without paying. And I've always thought to myself, well, how does that work? How do they get the money back? Well, apparently what happens in the modern world right now is that when somebody pulls off without paying, they come, you know, they get the registration from the monitors the day after when they realise that somebody's not paid for your fuel. Because when you go to a garage and you're working a tool, you have all these numbers of the fuel pumps, and if somebody's not paid for fuel, it will flash red, because you have to basically, when, you know, somebody comes up and you say, do you have any fuel, sir? Yeah. Is it, you know, pump 2? Is it £16 and 3 pence? You got to ask them the price. You got to ask them what pump they're at, and then you can click on the pump, and then that'll transfer it to payment, and then you can click to transfer the payment over so they can pay by card. But if somebody doesn't do that and drive away, then if it's, let's say, pump 3, that pump 3 will flash red, and then they know on the computer system at the garage that somebody's not paid for the fuel. But imagine also that AI is going to change that, because AI will automatically record the number plate, and then what happens is it goes to a company of bailiffs who then will pursue that person in court to get the money back, whether it's £10 or £30. I mean, I was in the garage at one night working with a guy called Chris, and a guy came in. He put £10 and 16 pence on his on the fuel, and he said, "Oh, sorry, mate, I've got my wallet. I haven't got my card with me." And you know, and so Chris said, "Oh, you know, can you leave something behind them as a deposit?" And so he was wearing a load of silver rings, and so he gave him a silver ring. So he gave him a silver ring and let him go with the promise that the guy would be back in 10 minutes with his card. He never came back. And I looked at the silver ring and said, "You do know, Chris, that this silver ring is probably over about £2, and it's not no, you know, you're never going to get £10 for that silver ring second hand. It's probably worth £1 or £2 the most scrap value." And so you've been done there, mate. Yeah, he never came back for it, as far as I know. And then because I had some jobs worth at the garage have a go at me because I've been awake for 15 hours and done a 15-hour shift at my other job altogether with this job. I was yawning quite a bit because I was tired, and I shouldn't have been awake for so long, because I've been awake since like half 3. I was working until 10 o'clock at night on the garage shift, doing 8 hours, running my other job. And instead of coming up to me and actually treating me like a human being and being nice, he was very intimidating. And I thought he was quite borderline bullying, and so from that point I decided that I'm not going to work evenings anymore. And so the garage said, "Well, you can't fulfil your contract to do evening work." Well, they're putting me on at 10 o'clock at night. I've got to get up at 4 in the morning some days, and therefore I'm getting 6 hours of rest in between my 2 jobs, and I thought that was not right. So I thought I'll put that job off because it's not worth the hassle or the stress for the minimum amount of wage I was getting. Anyway, that's me ranting about my previous life in the past. And then Timothy says, go back to your comments, nothing is natural. And then Timothy puts 3 big laughing emojis on, and Offer 10 says that's for the good info. So thumbs up for that. Yeah, I mean, we can recommend some suppliers of swords, but we do need to I need to speak to some reenactors who are more used to buying swords and where they get them from to get more information for you. And Iric says, I'm going to make a move shortly. I've overdone it today and burnt myself out, but I may return shortly. So, if we don't see you again, Iric, today, then have a good night, my friend. So I won't be going on for too much longer because I am tired. And B, I got to get up and get some rest. So Timothy says, nice to meet you, Iric. And Iric says, it was lovely to meet you too, Timothy. Yeah, we do have a lovely crowd and a lovely community on this channel, and I do love that. It's one of the most favourite things and aspects about being a content creator is the crowd and the community you have. And Offer 10 says, I has traded axe and sword from Grimfrost in Sweden. It was very good quality. Yeah, I mean, I've heard different things about Grimfrost. Some people say, oh, they're very good. And then some people say, well, they're very commercial and the quality is not too bad. Perhaps at some point we will buy something just to review it on camera. And Timothy says, I want to purchase an Ulfbert sword. Yeah, same here really, but a good one. Probably inlaid with what were they, engraved. And don't forget there was a load of them. I mean, Ulfbert would be the place they was manufactured and not a name of a person. And then Offer 10 says, Timothy Hanegar, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, they are very nice swords. Well, they are very nice swords indeed. I do want one for my collection, but I want a really good, decent copy. And then Iric says, that's Iric Rickardson, says, I field tested the sword that my friend got from Grimfrost. It handles well, but we notice it notched easy, so less sharp burrs like a saw. I think he had a dud and it wasn't tempered properly. Well, yes, a sword has to be tempered properly, and if you're getting hats or cuts like that, then it's definitely not good, and you want your money back. So, and Timothy says, meant about AI not being natural. Well, probably no, probably not natural. No, it's computer led, and let's face it, computers aren't exactly very natural either. I'll take my, yeah, it does get a bit around your neck after a while. I got it caught up. There you go. I like this, but I don't always like to wear it because you know you're wearing a neck ring. It's not like you're wearing a nice necklace where you don't really feel it too much. And we've got Martin here from Belfast. Good evening all. Well, good evening Martin. And how are you today? Have you had a good day in Belfast? What have you been up to? And what have you had for your dinner tonight? I had 4 sausages earlier with 4 long cobs and some barbecue sauce. It was a quick and easy dinner. I bought some sausages last night. I'm trying to cut down on meat a bit, but I do eat a lot of meat. But you've got to live once though, haven't you? The last night I went out, I had a baked bean chip mix when my mate came round, and I had a fish cake on it and a large battered sausage. It wasn't cheap. So Iric says, my cheat swords from Night Shop doesn't notch and has needed very little maintenance, being I've whacked it around like a true madman. Well, that's good to know. I've had a good look at the Night Shop, and there's 1 or 2 nice things they have. Wouldn't mind buying. So again, when I got the spare readies in the future, that's basically money. I will go and invest in some more kit so we can unbox it on camera and review their shop and see what they're like. You know, maybe we'll get an axe and a sword from them. You can never own enough Viking swords in my mind. I'm going to lean back a little bit and drink some of my Coke and rum and plenty of ice. There's enough here to keep me going all night. And Martin says it's been wet and stuffed pork chops and chips. Oh, that sounds nice. I do like a nice pork chop. I like belly pork. I do. You've got to be cut properly so that the the fat crackles up. Oh, that's lovely. Sometimes I like to get belly pork and cut it into squares and and bake it in barbecue sauce in the oven. And out of Siberia, thank you for all the great info and comments here. Well, you're more than welcome. That's what we're here to serve. And you know, it's our pleasure to to not only read your great comments, but also to have your great comments. Let's face it, we need more Vikings in the world to spread the knowledge and to spread the Viking way of life. And how, I mean, all these Saxons that converted will be turning their graves right now at the fact that there's so many people converting back to Norse paganism and Anglo-Saxon paganism. And he says, out of Siberia says, keep up the good work. Well, it certainly will do. Lots more videos to edit and to film. I'm thinking about recording a series of Bible stories. I don't know what you think about this, but I bought a lovely little book and it's got 220 Bible stories in it, but I'm telling it from a kind of an Anglo-Saxon point of view. Well, I think that would be quite nice, because it will give us another 220 videos on the channel. And Offer 10 says, add you as a moderator. Oh yeah, I can add you as I can have the blue spanner from here. I didn't realise I could do that. So Offer 10 says, has the same experience my Stickles dad sword from Night Shop, has got a lot of beating and still nice. All right, I'll have to definitely check them out then. If the sword can take a good beating, that's good. And Eric says, I had a lined tunic posted recently. We'll review it in a bit. £30, can't complain, and it's actually linen and not cotton. Well, that's really good price for a linen tunic. I said lined tunic because I couldn't see linen, and yeah, that's really reasonable. And I think I was going to do a video at some point about what kit do you need to buy to dress up as a Viking. So instead of doing like a review on Viking kit, I'm going to do like a starter set. What do you need to buy to get yourself going as a Viking? So, and then Martin says, I bought a cheap battle-ready sword from Celtic Web Merchant for £29 on sale last year. Yeah, I got one of the cheap later Norman swords from Web Merchant last year. Not unboxed it yet, really, but I will review it. And then they sent me the money back because they got my order wrong, so I got it for free basically. So even better. So I did have to pay, import tax. That was the most expensive thing about it. And then it says, bring on the Bible stories. All stories are welcome. Well, yes, I mean, there are some good stories in the Bible, and I think telling it from the Anglo-Saxon point of view would be quite interesting, and will give us another 220 long format videos for the channel. And then Martin says, brought some linen curtains a few years ago and made my own 2 tunics. Well, yes, again, buying wool or linen curtains is a very good way of actually getting material. So, or go to the charity shop and check out the curtains and check out what they're made out of. You may be surprised that you may get some bargains. I've definitely done that with curtains before. Oh yes, yes, a good idea. In fact, I got a pair of curtains I left round Turkey's. I gave them to him in the end for his windows. Woman Coke. Makes you think what would be the Viking equivalent of rum. Did they have spirits like we have today? You can go down the shop and £15 buy yourself a bottle of rum. It'll probably be, it won't be a litre though, not for that money. But we can only but dream. I mean, this is the last thing. No, have I got it here? No, I don't have it here. I thought I had the last tunic I made, but I don't have it. It's in the other room. I've got too many Viking clothes, unfortunately. You can never have enough. And sometimes you do see them on sale on eBay, but I've not been watching recently because I don't really have the coin to go and start buying things on eBay. I've been looking every week. So Eric says, tried making a tunic and still haven't got the knack for it. Trousers and blazers, I got that down like a pro, but tunics are definitely not my jam. But I think about making a tunic, if you do it larger than what you need, you can't really go wrong because you could always tailor it down to yourself. And it's quite simple, really, making a tunic. You just got to get the arms right and the pattern for the arms. Like I said, if you make it larger, you can't go wrong. If you try to make it to fit you, and so, you know, you're going to have problems because, you know, it'll be too tight under the armpits. So generally, you know, if you've got an under tunic like this one, it's quite a large one. I mean, it's big. I mean, I could tailor that down to myself, but I don't really want to adjust it. And saying that, I think it needs a good wash. It stinks. And then if you do wash your under tunics, you can either do it by hand, which is the best way. But I tend to put them in the washing machine on the delicate wash setting, and it's normally the wool setting. And then what I do, I get a pillowcase, and I put them in a pillowcase, and I tie the pillowcase with a knot, so that the delicate items inside the pillowcase, but it's got to be a very tight knot so it don't come undone. And then you can get a couple of them in a pillowcase, and then it won't damage your tablet weave. And you know, you'll end up with a nice freshly washed tunic. Then take it out, leave it on a wet setting, not a dry setting. You don't want to dry them in the washing machine. You just want to wash them, and then hang them on a clothes horse, or even better, hang them outside on a washing line, and you know, and peg them out. And so what's going wrong with your tunics, Eric, is that you're probably trying to make them to fit you. If you make them larger, I mean, if you want some dimensions, let me know, and I'll give you some dimensions, Eric. And it's dead easy, really. You can't go wrong if you make a larger one. You can always get a larger tunic, or under tunic, or over tunic, and you can make it smaller to fit. But if that's the problem I think you're having, if you're just trying to make one to fit your body so it's a nice tight fit, you're going to have problems. So, and that's quite big. I mean, that's quite wide. And the reason why they made them bigger is because A, it shows off your wealth that you can afford the material. So if you want some dimensions, Eric, let me know, and I've got a load written down, and we'll try to figure out how to get you to make a tunic. So and then Martin says, bought a nice dragon arm ring from less than $3.50. Was lucky to find it. Well, that is a bargain, Martin. And Iris says, I think it's my lack of space to lay the material down and mark out the pattern. Well, perhaps you could take the material to work where you got some space in your lunch break and do it there. And then you just make sure you got, you know, make it bigger, and you can always fasten and gather it around you. So rather than do it in your house if you haven't got a lot of space, because let's face it, most rooms in a house aren't quite big enough to work your pattern. I mean, I just about got rooms big enough. You know, I'd probably do it in this room. So if you do your pattern at work and then take it back to hand sew it, then you'll be laughing then. And then Iris says, "Oh, that arm ring sounds fancy. And a complete steal." Well, it does. And we all love it when we're doing this hobby and we find a bargain on camp or online, and you think, oh, £5 for a silver bracelet, I'm having that. And, you know, you can go to car boots, you will find, you know, because let's face it, people have been wearing Viking-inspired jewellery since time began, or since the Vikings began. So you will find stuff. And, you know, a lot of classical revivalism, that's a big word, basically means you know, people like to make modern jewellery but with a classical point of view. Has been popular since, you know, well, certainly since the late 19th century, but especially so in the 1950s and 60s and 70s. Classical revivalism has been very big. So you all, you know, I mean, it's a bit like that company that makes things out of pewter. I forget the name of them now, but they make some very nice things. But you definitely want silver over pewter though, and definitely want pewter over lead. Oh, heading towards 10 o'clock at night. Well, very shortly I'm going to finish this live stream because I can't. I got to get some sleep, and I want to get a bit of rest. So if you've got any more questions before I go, I'll answer them. We could do a very fast round of questions. If not, we'll start to wind the live stream down. So I've done 2 hours, and then I'm aiming to be back on Saturday night if I've got no plans. Some days I do go out on a Saturday night, go and get some food and have a takeaway. So, but so far I've got no plans for that, and it also does depend on how much energy I've got. And then to go back to your comments, I will struggle. I will smuggle the material into work while no one is looking. Laughed out loud. Well, yeah, you can get it in your little backpack and carry it in. It's not the biggest amount of material. And even if you just go and buy some cheap material and just made a pattern you could work to in the future for more, and then you could try to use a pattern to work from, maybe better as well. I mean, we can all go to a charity shop and buy a pair of curtains for £3 and get yourself material to make a pattern from. But Martin says, made by James Goddard, a Viking and Celtic jewellery maker. Well, I've not heard of him, I don't think. So that's great. I mean, imagine if you find, you know, some of the really good Viking bracelets made by Gundel, you know, the Dave the Mundier at a car boot for a £5. You'd be laughing your socks off. And then Iris says, there's a security guard that walks around where I work and he has arm rings from his wrist to his middle of his forearm. We call him Paul the Raider. Laughs out loud. Well, you just go and raid him for some arm rings then. He's got plenty. You won't miss one, would he? Paul the Raider. It's one of it how we give each other nicknames. It's an old tradition, that is. And Martin says, good night, laughed out loud. Yes, I will be going very shortly. Because I'm tired and I need to get some rest. And I can't live stream for hours and hours and hours. Well, one night we will do a very long live stream. But you do run out of stuff to talk about. And I'll save some of the stuff we're going to talk about to another live stream. We'll talk about, I want to talk about and compare the 3 different designs of Viking shields. I want to talk about the Gambison versus chainmail, and there's some other things I want to talk about as well, and try to have more of a focus on some of these live streams. So at that point I'm going to say good night. I wish you all good health, was hail, good health in the old Saxon tongue, and ich thank thee, I thank you. And got a, before I go, got another comment, sudag.co.uk. Right, we'll have to look that up. And any more merchants or traders you can recommend, Martin, in the comments, please let us know in the future, because I'm slightly out of touch with not being a member of a Viking group. I am looking to join one. Then let us know. Oh, we've got a comment here from Chunky Monkey 55555. Do. Well, I was going to go in there, but I'll stay around for a little bit whilst Chunky is about for a few more minutes. I've still got some Coke and rum to drink. How are you today, Chunky? Are you having a good day? I know a song about Yogi Bear. Yogi has an enemy. Ranger. Yogi's into whipped and chained. Kinky. Yogi likes cheese, camembert. It's funny what songs you remember from camp. So Chunky says, I've got a comment from Aaron Kelly, interesting message. And Chunky Monkey says, do like Yogi Bear. I think I read that one. And Chunky says, evening Bragi. I'm just about, thank you, and you? I'm good, thank you. A bit tired, a bit of a long day, as you do, but I'm battling on. And Chunky says, I had something funny happen to me last night. Well, what was that then? Leave it in the comment and I'll read it out for everybody to know. I'm waiting to find out what happened now. We'll carry on for a bit longer. Well, nothing really funny happened to me last night. I just went to the chippy. It's a Greek chippy. I think they're the best chippies in the world. So I used to go to the chippy where I used to work, and it's run by two Greek brothers, and their sister is Marina Sirtis from Star Trek. There's a picture of her on the wall. So that's a small world, isn't it? So nothing's really funny happened to me recently, I must say. And Offer 10 says, I have a true story from Northern Norway, where I grew up. Well, what's that story? I'll read that on camera as well. Well, another good funny story. So and Offer 10 says, my grandfather worked on the can't pronounce that word because I'm tired. You know, what is that word? It's not pronounced the way you think it is. And fishing in the 50s. I'm thinking of Jaws now, the movie, not the guy from James Bond. And Chunky Monkey says, well, I stuck a shelf on the wall behind my bed to hold two speakers with a glue gun. Then, in the early hours of the morning, the shelf fell off and made a god almighty loud noise. But I don't think somehow fastening a shelf to a wall with a glue gun works really. I don't know, some of this Gorilla Glue said to be quite good. But reminds me of that funny dream I had with all the monkeys in my house and gorillas and orangutans. Yeah, I definitely used war plugs to fashion a shelf from the wall. Thank God it wasn't a load of Viking helmets and you could have knocked yourself senseless. You know. It makes you think how many Vikings would have died when they thought, oh, I'm going to put a shelf behind the back of my bed and put my favourite helmet on, and in the night the shelf falls down and his helmet knocks him out and kills him. Not a nice way to die, Viking. That's another idea for a video. Let's remember that one. And we've got some comments here. So Upper 10 says they spotted a large 3 barrels coming into the fjord. They got it raised and saw the British Museum logo. They hit one pipe in the barrel and pure liquid came out, so they started picking up buckets to collect the booze and started drinking some of it. After a while they got off the lid and saw there was a gorilla in the barrel. Yeah, that reminds me of it from a movie when they was doing that. They had a barrel and they was siphoning off the pure alcohol from the barrel, but then they realised that the barrel was holding a dead human body inside the barrel. But I can't remember what film that's from. It's from an old black and white one, I swear of it. It'll come back to me in the middle of the night and I'll wake up saying, that's the film it was. But no doubt that's happened when somebody's found a barrel and it will say like pure alcohol on the side of it, and probably in some foreign text explaining what else is in it. And so, you know, they caught the barrel at the bottom and think, oh, all right, I'm going to get some of this pure alcohol. And then at some point they realise that it's actually there's a dead body inside of the barrel being purified by the pure alcohol. Oh, a drop of Nelson's blood wouldn't do you any harm. A drop of Nelson's blood wouldn't do you any harm. A drop of Nelson's blood wouldn't do you any harm. And we all hang on to find them, and we raise the old. I can't remember the rest now. And we raise the old chariot along, and we roll the old chariot along, and we all hang on behind them. That's a song about Nelson's blood. So it's funny what triggers my mind when it comes to songs. And hang on, because I found this the other day. So back when I was doing my Civil War reenacting, you probably won't see it on there. It's engraved. This is my song book of all the songs that I can sing. So there's literally a lot of songs in here. So perhaps I'll do a live stream one of these days and sing you some she shanties. Would you like that? Would that be something you'd watch me do? Sing a load of songs to you? Because I'll have to remember how some of these songs go. Yeah. Saturday night I'd see my boys. Because a lot of these are not Viking songs, of course, because we don't really know any Viking songs. But yeah, it goes. I think it goes to about there. So that's how many songs there is to sing. You know, this is one of my favourites. If you only got a moustache, because I sung that on camera. There are one or two modern songs in here, but most of them are sea shanties. And then it's just a matter of remembering how to go to get the song going. And some of them will be quite sad songs, and you know, and some of them will be quite happy songs. But I was thinking, you know, this is a good one called A Roving. It's all about meeting a woman of the night and having good fun. But yeah, I think in the future I may do that. And when I get my Anglo-Saxon lyre, which is coming in the post sometime soon, I'm going to try to figure out if I can play the damn thing. Yeah, there are some dirty songs in there, naturally. Because a lot of these songs had double meaning. And then I can find other song books with other songs. But yeah, being British, we love a good dirty song. I've been surprised how many dirty songs came from World War One and World War Two. You know, like Friday night I touched her on the ankle, Tuesday night I touched her on the knee, and Wednesday after supper I ran the fucker upper, and now I'm paying to bob a week. Oh blimey, I don't want to join the army. I don't want my bullet shot away. I want to die in England, merry, merry England. I fornicate my fucking life away. God blimey. There's a dirty song for you. I've probably got it a bit wrong. God, that's not a family-friendly live stream, is it? So Chunky says, my computer is making a crackling sound sometimes. I might be about to crash, so if I go suddenly, that's why. Ha ha ha. Well, I'm going to go in a minute anyway. I did say that about 10 minutes ago, but I managed to carry on for a few more minutes. Because you came along, and it'd be rude not to say hello to one of my old subscribers. But I do need to wind down for the night. I've only got one more working week left today. Hasn't this week gone quick? Is it me? Has it been a quick week? Because it's Thursday already, and I can't believe it, you know. It don't seem like Thursday. I mean, some days I think Monday's like Sunday, and Sunday's like bloody Tuesday. Ah, well, I'm used to burning the candle at both ends, though. So, but I just want to. It's not about getting rest. It's just about winding down for the evening, watching but you know, I might watch a bit of On the Buses. You know, oh, I hate you, Blakey. I was thinking the other day they should do a TV series called On the Long Ships, and they could do it the same basis. You know, oh, I hate you, Iric. Oh, get on the bloody long ship. You know, yeah. But I will be going very shortly, because you can't do live streams forever, and there's only really plans there now tonight. But some days you just carry on, and I've still got to find a brush to comb my hair. That's another challenge. Seem to be running out of brushes. Combs, I've got more combs I could shake a stick at, but when it comes to brushes, what you do need to buy a good Viking bone comb. It's on my list, but I never had one. But at that point, I think I'm going to say goodbye now. Goodbye. And don't forget to like this video. And if you got this far afterwards, when it's been published, then you truly are amazing that you managed to watch 2 hours and 17 minutes or 2 hours and 19 minutes of me going on. So you're amazing. Don't forget that. And everybody's special and unique in the world. And we all have a story to tell. And that is truly wonderful. And, you know, we're all a part of the same Northworthy army. And at some point we need to make a notification squad army just to share the content out more and more, so we get more views. And of course, the bigger we get, the better the content we can make. And when, you know, we can afford to go full time and I can pay myself and pay IWIC, and then we can make even better content and actually go and travel to places and film at historic sites and go away at the weekend to events and film them. And go and look for interesting individuals also to film as well, because there's so many great reenactors out there who have a lot of knowledge, more than what I do. You know, that'll be wonderful. And, you know, we're going to start spreading the positivity and the love in the world and the Viking way of life. So, thank you for watching. I have always been your channel host, Bragi, and I'll continue to be your channel host, Bragi. Although I did think the other day, if I was going to be a Saxon, what name I'd choose. I think definitely my last name would be Thorfirth, because it's quite a mouthful. But I have to choose a good Saxon first name. And I did have one at one point, but I've forgotten what I chose, because it's so many years ago. So it's goodbye from me. Thank you for watching. And hopefully I'll be back on the live stream on Saturday night. It'll be between 7:30 and... well, yeah, it'll be around about 7:30. In the week, it's got to be slightly different because I don't know what time I'm going to be ready to live stream. So that's why I slightly changed the comment in the community post to 7:30 to 8 o'clock. Basically because I needed to have time to eat some food and make myself a cup of coffee and a cup of tea and to get the bits I needed for the live stream. So, and we'll all try to plan a little bit better in the future as well, and have actual subject to talk about rather than just me reading your comments. But I do love them because I think they're my most favourite live streams. So it's goodbye from me. Thank you very much for watching. You've been wonderful as always. And tomorrow I'll try to figure out a way to publish some content for you. And we'll challenge the algorithm and see if we can't eventually go viral and, you know, go past 18,000 views on a video. So goodbye from Bragi.